Ladies and gentlemen, let me teach you something that shifted my entire life. And it's not theory, it's not philosophy. It's divine truth backed by experience, the power of putting God first. You see, too many people treat God like a fire extinguisher. Break the glass in case of emergency. But I'm here to tell you, God was never meant to be your last resort. He's supposed to be your foundation. When you put God first, you don't walk blindly. You walk with wisdom. You don't hustle in confusion. You build with clarity. When God is first, chaos can surround you, but purpose will ground you. Now this isn't just about going to church or saying a prayer before bed. I'm talking about aligning your entire life, your money, your mission, your marriage, your mind, with the will of the one who created it all. When you align with God, things that should take 10 years take 10 months. Why? Because you're not building on sand, you're building on solid rock. See, most people are chasing success without source. You want abundance without alignment. But God says in Matthew 6:33, "Seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you." Not some all, that means provision, that means peace, that means power. You're putting money first. You're putting likes first. You're putting people's opinions first. And you're wondering why your life feels unstable. Let me drop this on you. Anything you put before God becomes your idol, and idols can't bless you. When you put God first, He'll open doors no man can shut. He'll bring opportunities you didn't apply for. He'll multiply your efforts. You'll go from stressed to strategic, from broke to blessed, from lost to led. Not because you're so smart, but because you're so submitted. Faith isn't magic, it's partnership. You bring obedience, He brings overflow. You bring faithfulness, He brings favor. That's why the greatest investment you can ever make is not in Bitcoin. It's not in real estate. It's in obedience to God. So I challenge you today. Stop putting God in your Sunday box. Stop putting Him in your crisis drawer. Start putting Him at the center of your decisions. Ask Him before you sign that deal. Consult Him before you choose that relationship. Trust Him before you build that business, because when God is first, everything else gets better. Don't just chase success. Walk in significance, and significance only begins when you let the source lead. Put God first, and watch everything else follow. God is not your backup plan. He's your blueprint. That one truth alone can change everything about how you live, how you think, how you build, and how you walk through life. See, most people treat God like a contingency, someone to run to when the money runs out, when the relationship breaks down, when the health fails, when the stress gets too heavy. But that's not the order God intended. He's not the fire alarm you pull when things catch fire. He's the architect who designed the building, the materials, the structure, and the purpose behind every single brick. When you treat God like a backup, you're basically saying, "I've got this," until I don't. That's pride disguised as independence. But when you treat God like your blueprint, you live every day asking, "What did you design me to do? What's your plan for this area of my life?" You consult Him before you move, before you commit, before you act. Not because you're weak, but because you're wise enough to know you don't see the full picture. See, a blueprint is detailed. It's precise. It's layered. When you put up a building, you don't guess where the steel beams should go. You follow the architectural plan to the inch. But too many people are building lives with no divine blueprint. They're stacking relationships, jobs, businesses, choices on top of sand, and then wondering why everything keeps collapsing. When you build without God, you hustle in circles. You get exhausted trying to fix what was never yours to build. You try to force success, force relationships, force outcomes. But when you follow the divine blueprint, you get in alignment. And alignment brings acceleration. You don't have to kick open every door. You just walk through the ones He already opened. You don't have to stress about how. It becomes clear when you focus on who you're following. The blueprint doesn't always make sense at first. Sometimes God will have you start something with less money than you think you need. Sometimes He'll have you forgive when your flesh wants revenge. Sometimes He'll tell you to walk away from something that looks good but isn't aligned. But that's the point. You're not the designer. You're the builder. You don't have to understand everything. You just need to trust the one who sees what you can't. So ask yourself right now, are you living life with God as your backup? Or is He your foundation, your guide, your step-by-step plan? Because until God becomes your blueprint, you're just guessing with your future. But when you build with Him, everything, your peace, your purpose, your provision, falls into place, not perfectly, but powerfully. Not instantly, but intentionally. God is not your emergency contact. He's the author of your destiny. Let Him write the story from the beginning, not just edit it when it's broken. When you prioritize God, you align with divine order, and divine favor follows. That's not just spiritual talk. That's a principle. It's a law, like gravity. Just like the natural world runs on systems and laws, so does the spiritual realm. When you put God in His rightful place, first place, your life begins to operate according to the kingdom structure, and that structure is built to bring favor, clarity, and overflow. The problem is, too many people want divine results without divine order. They want blessings while living in rebellion to the order that brings the blessing. Think of a company or a team. When everyone knows their role, honors the leadership, and follows the mission, things flow smoothly. Productivity goes up, conflict goes down. Now imagine if everyone just did what they wanted, when they wanted, without respect to authority. What happens? Confusion, frustration, collapse. Your life works the same way. When God is not at the top, when He's not the center of your decisions, you invite disorder. You open the door to chaos. That doesn't mean every problem disappears when you put God first, but it means you now have divine backing, divine wisdom, and divine peace navigating you through it. See, divine order is about priorities. If you're putting money, fame, people, comfort, or your own opinions above God, you've already disordered your life. And when the order is wrong, the outcomes suffer. But when the order is right, when God is truly first, you don't have to chase favor. Favor finds you. You don't have to beg for opportunities. Opportunities align with your obedience. You don't have to manipulate people or force outcomes. God brings divine connections, divine timing, and divine positioning. That's what happened to Joseph in the Bible. Even when he was in the pit, even when he was in the prison, he never stepped out of alignment with God. He kept prioritizing the presence and purpose of God, and what happened? Favor followed him. Doors opened. Pharaoh promoted him, not because he networked better, but because he honored divine order. And when God can trust you to keep Him first in the dark, He will elevate you in the light. Some of you are frustrated right now because your life feels like it's out of sync. And it is. Not because you don't have talent, but because your order is wrong. Your calendar says one thing, but your prayers say another. Your mouth says God is first, but your habits prove He's an afterthought, and you're wondering why the business won't grow, the peace won't come, the relationships keep failing. It's not a luck issue, it's a lordship issue. So I dare you, reorder your life. Put God above the grind. Put Him before the deadline. Put Him before the deal, because divine order leads to divine favor. And when you walk in divine favor, you get supernatural results from natural obedience. That's the power of getting your priorities right. Putting God first increases your spiritual, emotional, and financial ROI, your return on investment, in ways that many people overlook. When you prioritize God, you're making the smartest investment you can ever make because God is the source of all increase. This is not just about faith or religion. It's about understanding a principle that works whether you realize it or not. When you put God first, everything in your life, your spirit, your emotions, your finances, starts to multiply, grow, and stabilize. Let's start with the spiritual side. When God is first, your spirit is nourished and aligned. You begin to see beyond your current struggles and circumstances. You gain wisdom and clarity that can't be bought or learned in school. Spiritual growth isn't just about feeling good. It's about becoming strong in your inner man, becoming resilient in the face of trial. That strength empowers every area of your life. Your decisions become clearer, your relationships healthier, and your vision sharper. You're no longer tossed by every wind of doubt or fear because your foundation is anchored in God's truth. Putting God first stabilizes your heart. Life will always have ups and downs, but when God is your priority, you don't get shaken by every setback. You develop peace that surpasses understanding, a peace that protects your heart and mind even when the world around you is chaotic. Instead of reacting emotionally or impulsively, you respond from a place of calm and faith. That emotional intelligence and stability attract positive relationships, help you manage stress, and improve your overall well-being. Now, let's talk about the financial impact. Many people think finances are separate from their faith or spirituality, but they are deeply connected. The Bible teaches us that God blesses the work of our hands and rewards obedience. When you put God first, you invite His wisdom into your financial decisions. You're less likely to make impulsive purchases, get caught in debt traps, or follow risky schemes. Instead, you learn stewardship, the art of managing your resources with purpose and discipline. That's why many successful entrepreneurs and leaders credit their faith for their financial breakthroughs. God multiplies what you give Him, what you invest in His kingdom, and what you steward wisely. The return on investment from putting God first is exponential. It's not like a bank account where you earn a fixed interest rate. It's more like a miracle that unfolds over time. The more consistent you are in putting God first, through prayer, obedience, generosity, and faithfulness, the more you see increase in ways you didn't expect. Doors open, people support you, and opportunities come your way. Sometimes the blessings are tangible like money or jobs. Other times they are intangible like peace, favor, or connections. But they all add up to a richer, fuller life. So when you look at your life as an investment, remember this. Putting God first is the highest yielding asset you can have. It's the ultimate investment that pays dividends spiritually, emotionally, and financially. And unlike stocks or real estate, this investment never crashes or fails. It only grows. This is why you must prioritize God above all else. Because when He's first, everything else gets the overflow. Faith isn't just believing in God, it's obeying His principles even when it's hard. This is a crucial distinction that many miss. Faith is often misunderstood as a passive feeling or hopeful wish, but true faith is active, consistent, and rooted in obedience. It's one thing to say, "I believe God will bless me." It's a whole different thing to live in alignment with His ways, especially when circumstances don't make sense or when the world around you pressures you to give up or take shortcuts. Obedience is the practical expression of faith. It's the daily decision to follow God's instructions, even when it's inconvenient, uncomfortable, or unclear. The Bible shows us countless examples where faith without works is dead, meaning belief alone isn't enough. Faith must produce action, and that action is obedience. When you obey God's principles, honesty, integrity, generosity, humility, patience, you activate the power of faith in your life. This obedience doesn't guarantee an easy life. In fact, sometimes it brings challenges. Obeying God might mean saying no to certain opportunities because they don't align with His will. It might mean choosing integrity over quick profit or humility over recognition. But here's the secret. Obedience, even when difficult, positions you for God's blessings. It builds character, deepens trust and opens doors that blind ambition cannot. Faith tested through obedience produces resilience. When you choose to obey despite fear, doubt, or delay, you grow stronger spiritually and emotionally. Your faith becomes unshakable because it's been proven. This kind of faith is what God honors. It's not a faith that jumps ship at the first sign of trouble, but one that stands firm, trusting that God's timing and plans are perfect. Another important point is that obedience aligns you with God's timing, not your own. Many times we want immediate results, so we rush or manipulate situations. But faith that obeys understands that God's delays are not denials. When you obey God's principles, you are planting seeds that will bear fruit in the right season. It's a long game, and obedience keeps you in the game. Obeying God's principles, even when it's hard, changes your mindset. It moves you from a mentality of scarcity and fear to one of abundance and trust. You stop living by sight and start living by faith. This mindset shift is critical because it influences every decision you make, from relationships to finances to personal growth. It is a daily commitment to obey God's principles no matter what. It's in this obedience that faith becomes alive and powerful, and it's here that God's power is released in your life. When you walk in obedience, you walk in favor, protection, and supernatural provision. That's the power of faith rooted in action. Seek God first, and He'll multiply what's in your hand, even if it looks like nothing. This principle is powerful because it speaks directly to those moments when you feel like you have little to offer. Whether it's a small amount of money, limited skills, or a seemingly insignificant opportunity. The story of the loaves and fishes in the Bible perfectly illustrates this truth. A boy offered 5 loaves and 2 fish, a small and insufficient meal by normal standards. Yet, when Jesus took that humble offering and blessed it, it fed thousands. This teaches us that God doesn't measure our success by what we have, but by what we do with what we have when we put Him first. Many people get stuck waiting until they have enough before they start to give, invest, or step out in faith. But the truth is, the blessing comes in the obedience, not in the size of the initial offering. When you seek God first, you're acknowledging that He is the source and multiplier of all increase. It's not about your resources, but about your reliance on God's ability to multiply and bless. You might have a small business, a tight budget, or limited time, but when God is first, those limited resources expand beyond natural expectations. This principle also applies beyond finances. Maybe you're feeling like you have limited talent or influence. Maybe your network seems small or your opportunities seem few. But when you put God first, He multiplies your efforts, your influence, and your impact. It's the difference between working harder in your own strength and working smarter in divine strength. The multiplication comes because God's favor rests on you, opening doors and bringing the right people and resources at the right time. Another important aspect of seeking God first is trust. It requires faith that God can and will multiply what you entrust to Him. It's easy to give when you feel rich and abundant, but putting God first often means giving when it feels risky, when the future is uncertain, or when you don't know how it will all work out. That's where true faith shines. It's the confidence that God is not only able but willing to multiply what you commit to Him. You also begin to see multiplication in your peace and provision. When God is first, your mindset changes from scarcity to abundance. You stop worrying about lack because you understand that God's supply is unlimited, that peace alone frees you to operate more effectively, creatively, and generously. As you trust God with the little, you position yourself for the increase that follows. Seeking God first creates a cycle of blessing. When God multiplies what's in your hand, you have more to give, more to invest, and more to bless others with. That generosity triggers more favor and multiplication. It's a divine principle. Give first to receive more. The more you put God first, the more He entrusts you with. So no matter how little you feel you have, put God first. Trust Him to multiply your efforts, your resources, and your opportunities. When God is at the center, even the smallest offering can become a feast. As we wrap up, remember this: putting God first is not just a spiritual cliche. It's a life transforming principle that rewires your mindset, redirects your priorities, and releases divine favor in every area of your life. When God is your blueprint, you build on a solid foundation that cannot be shaken. When you align with divine order, you invite favor that can't be manufactured. When you prioritize Him, your spiritual, emotional, and financial returns multiply beyond what you could imagine. Faith becomes more than belief. It becomes obedience that unlocks blessings even in hard seasons. And when you seek God first, no matter how small your resources, He multiplies what's in your hand to produce extraordinary results. So don't wait for the perfect time, the perfect plan, or the perfect circumstances. Start today by putting God first in your decisions, your relationships, your finances, and your dreams. Let Him lead and watch your life transform in ways only He can do. The power of putting God first is the power to live a life of purpose, peace, and prosperity beyond measure. Step into that power now and live your best life yet.